And here we have a 2006 Rayco LS2526, which is their log splitter. They built it for about 10 years and discontinued it in 2007 because somebody cut his leg off trying to push a chunk of wood out from between the ram and the wedge. Unfortunately, it's a heavy-duty son of a gun. It's got 13 horsepower Honda GX 390 engine. It's got an 8-inch beam, which is reinforced, as you can see here, all the way along. A 14-inch wedge, and it had a 14-inch four-way slip-on wedge, which I modified because it just wasn't quite doing what I wanted, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Here's your valve for your log lift. Here's your valve for your wedge lift. Here's your splitter valve, and here's your auto cycle valve. And then there's the push plate. You can see she is built heavy. There it is. And there's the back side. I think it is a 5-inch Prince cylinder with a 3.5-inch rod, if I remember correctly. Go back to the back side here. There's your log lift. It has a 500 or 600 pound capacity. There's your 14-inch wedge, and like I say, you can see she's built heavy. There's your ram for your splitter lift. Since I bought it, changed all the hydraulic oil and filter, and I changed the engine oil and filter and replaced it with full synthetic 10W30. Changed the air filter and all that other good stuff. Just regular maintenance. I've had it for quite a few years now, and I just absolutely love it. What I did was I took the wedge, which is 14 to 15 inches tall. Problem was, it would hang up here on the top of this wedge, so it only dropped down to about 6.5 to 8 inches off the beam. Well, the problem with that is you got one, if you're splitting something, say 8-10 inches in diameter, you'd have a great big chunk underneath of it here, underneath the wedge. You have a real small chunk of it here on top of the wedge. And there was another problem, that it had a solid pin here. And what I did was I slot cut this, because as the wood pushes into the front of this, it has a tendency to rock it back, so it would flatten out this part of the stationary wedge. So what I did was I slot cut it so that the whole four-way wedge can float up and down and doesn't cause this part of the wedge to get flattened out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her together. I'll hang the oh, I'm sorry. Another thing that was kind of not so great about it is it only had these little 3/8 inch plates on the side, so that all the wood would just hit them and fall off onto the ground here. Now, modified that a little bit, and you can see on this side, same thing. You got this plate here, which is okay, but anytime you got something over 10-12 inches, it just fell on the ground. Well, back kind of gets tired lifting them up. So what I did was I took 1.25 inch square and welded 1.5 inch round to it, and I made these log cradles here on this side. Now that's the second one I did. I kind of figured out what I was doing on the second one, whereas this first one was my prototype. And if you notice, this one hangs back a little bit further. So what I did was I wanted to make sure on this one, if you notice it's cut shorter, I didn't want to come up above the top of the beam and hang the wood up. So now the wood can fall off the wedge on here. The bark and little pieces fall through to the ground, and it holds the rest of it, and it'll just slide off eventually, and then you can just get it into the wood pile without bending all the way to the ground. I'll show you how she works here in just a minute then.